Recently, one of my partners on one of our Airbnbs asked me for help. He said, Logan, I'm not getting the bookings I'm looking for, and I'm looking to try to increase the occupancy of our property. Well, I happen to be partners with him, so I have a vested interest in trying to help him out as well. And so me and my wife, we actually own and operate 12 Airbnbs. And so I decided to create a free training on all the things that we've done over the last 3 years to get our occupancy up in all of our properties and increase our revenues, but most importantly, increase our profits. So this is a free training I did, and I describe and walk through the whole process from start to finish. So whether you're a new Airbnb host or whether you're a seasoned host, there's something in here for everybody. So if you get any value from this video, feel free to like the video, comment down below what your favorite part of the video was. Without further ado, let's dive in. How to increase occupancy and revenue for short-term rentals. So who is this for? This is for entrepreneurs who want to create the highest net cash flow at the end of every single month with their rental. What is my strategy? So my strategy is really simple because we own all of our properties. Our number one goal is that we want to create the highest net cash flow at the end of every single month. That's our goal, right? And so I don't care if it's a long-term rental, I don't care if it's a short-term rental, I don't care if it's a mid-term rental, I don't care if it's sober housing, I don't care if it's assisted living, like whatever I think is the best strategy, the highest net cash flow, like that is the strategy I'm going to use. Now, in this specific training, I'm only going to share with you basically 3 types: long-term rental, which I'm not going to touch too much on, but mid-term and short-term strategies. Okay. And so again, this comes anything from 1-night stays to weekly stays, monthly stays to 6 to 12 month stays. We're going to talk about a couple things here. We're going to talk about listing locations, right? And so the listing locations, these are all the different places that we've listed. Now, is there more? I'm sure there is. These are the ones that we've used and the ones that if you're looking for maximum exposure for your short-term rental, these are all the places that you can list. You can obviously list on Airbnb. It's where we get 90% of our bookings is from Airbnb. Okay, it's the main one. VRBO, Booking.com, a personal website, okay, Craigslist, Zillow, Furnished Finder, Apartments.com, and Facebook Marketplace as well. So these are all the places that you actually can list your short-term rental. And the more places you list it, the more exposure you're going to get. Now, as a side note to this, the more places you list it also comes with operational complexities, which means that if you have a booking on Craigslist and you have it for a week in December and you don't update it on your Airbnb and VRBO and Booking.com site, then all of a sudden you can get double bookings, which can create more of a cluster. So as a side note to this, with more exposure also means more operational complexity. So if you have one property, it's probably not going to be that difficult. But as you start to get into 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30 properties, it might not be as advantageous for you to list in multiple places. Okay, so I'm just saying that as a side note because that's a reality. Like the more places you list it also means that you have to start blocking things off in other places as well. These are all the places that you can list. Now, as far as your listings go, okay, so these listings apply to all these places I listed before. You're gonna need a headline, you're gonna need descriptions, you're gonna need photos, you need amenities, number of guests, and property type. Okay, these are gonna be the same across all locations. Now let's actually dive into these individually here. So headlines, and I'm going to speak specifically to Airbnb because you're going to get 90% of your bookings through Airbnb. However, these same concepts I'm applying can be used in all these other places, but I'm going to talk specifically about Airbnb because it is where you're going to get the majority of your customers from. Okay, so with headlines in there, you're going to want to speak to some of the things in there that as when someone's searching for the Airbnb that you can actually put in your search. So like for instance, like there's not a king bed option when you're searching on Airbnb. So how you can navigate that is you actually can put it in your listing. That's one of my favorite tips to do is put king bed in our headline of our property. Okay, location, if you have a special location like it's near the college or it's near downtown or it's near a stadium or it's near whatever people are attracted to, it's near it's on the mountain. These are all amazing things that will create traction when someone is searching for your Airbnb. And again, prize amenities. Again, if you have a pool, you have a jacuzzi, you have something in there that it's just like it sets your property away apart from other properties. Now, again, with the amenities, because you can search for amenities, that's not as valuable per se. But something like location and like king beds are like something that people really want that there's not a search option for. So headlines, descriptions. When you're doing your description for your property, you actually want to sell the vacation. Okay. And so like you want to sell the story that somebody's coming to. So like what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a story for your perfect avatar. Now, is every single person who comes, for example, to Bozeman, Montana, are they all coming to Yellowstone National Park? Are they all coming to ski at Big Sky Mountain? No, but a big portion of them are. And so so we're selling the vacation of the Yellowstone. We're selling the vacation of coming to Big Sky. And when we're able to sell that vacation, like there's little things that spin off that people, they're like, oh, like I want a piece of that. Okay. And so that's what your description needs to do, is sell the vacation. It's like telling the story of why your property is going to fit into their dreams and into their vacation. Okay. Now, again, if your property is like, you need to understand your avatar, right? So maybe you're not selling a destination, maybe you're selling workforce housing or like whatever it may be, but ideally you want to sell the vacation for that customer. Okay. So that's what your description does. The next thing is your photos. So the next thing we're talking about with photos is you want professional photos, or if you get really good at using your iPhone, you can take really good photos that look professional. And my wife, she's gotten really good at taking photos because I think we have 13 listings now, that her photos look even better than some of the professional photos I've seen. So either you're really good with your iPhone, or if you're not, then actually hire a professional to come in and get professional grade photos. It makes a huge difference. Okay. Now, when you're listing on Airbnb, again, this can apply to all the other listings, but you're gonna have what's called your hero photos. Okay. So you want what I call your hero photos are your top 5 photos. And your number 1 photo you want to put as your cover photo. It's the thing that catches the visitor's eyes. It catches their attention and draws them in to want to click on your listing, at least click through more photos. Okay. Now, when they're clicking through more photos, the biggest mistake that some hosts make is that they post their pictures like they're going to their house. So they'll have their hero photo be the living room, and the next 3 photos will be of their living room, of other shots in the living room. Big mistake. What you want is a photo of you want your hero photo, then you want a photo of your living room, you want a photo of the bedroom, of the bathroom, and then if you have a prized amenity, those are your top 5 photos. Okay, so these are the things people care about. People care about, like, what's the bathroom look like, what's the kitchen look like, what's the living room look like, what's the bedroom look like, right? At least the master bedroom. And then if you have a prize photo, like a pool or a jacuzzi, or you have a picture of the mountains, or your location, something like that, that'll be like your 5th photo. Okay, so Airbnb gives you 5 photos that I call your hero photos, that when they're clicking on your listing, they see these 5 photos and then they can scroll for more photos. Okay. And then branding. So here's a cool little tip that I've learned, is that if you have like Starbucks coffee that you offer, or Folgers coffee, or some sort of brand, then if you include those in your photo, you get automatically more trust, because your pictures, you're not stealing is not the right word, but you're borrowing some of that branding from things that people already know. So like we take a picture of your coffee bar and you include that it's Starbucks or it's Folgers, all of a sudden there's inherent trust in there because you have that. If you, on your TV, for example, if you have the Netflix icon up, or the YouTube TV icon up, or the Hulu icon up, and you take a picture of that, like there's inherent branding in that as well. And people, they trust those brands. And so when you associate yourself with those brands, they ultimately trust you more as a host. Okay. So those are like little things you can do with your photos that allow you to have somebody click in and see more of your photos. Okay. Next thing we're talking about is amenities. So again, if you have the pools, if you have the backyard, if you have like the ideal location, these are all things you want to put in your amenities: the king beds, irons, crock pots, like all the things that you have. So like all your cooking, like if you have air fryers, everything that you possibly have, if you put them in your amenities, like you'd be surprised how people actually look at those things. So the more things you have on there, and it'll give you some suggestions too on Airbnb. And so go out and spend the extra $100 and buy these little things, because you'd be surprised that somebody will not book your property because there's not an iron or an iron board. Or here's actually what ends up happening is they'll book a property and then they'll get there and say, you don't have an iron board, and you have to go out and get it anyway. So the more of those things you can get ahead of time, the more likely that people will not say no to your property. But then also from a management standpoint, you don't have to go out and buy crock pots or irons or ironing boards and things like that. So as many amenities as you can possibly get, the better. Number of guests. The more guests that you can serve, the more likelihood that the more valuable your property is, right? So if you have a property that can only house 2 people, well, you can only house 2 people. But if you're probably that same property, you can figure out how to put another bed in there, then you can house 4 people. All of a sudden, the amount of prospects that can rent your home goes up. And so the more prospects that can rent your home, the more eyeballs are on it, the higher likelihood of you keeping your occupancy and producing more revenue at the end of the month is higher. So some examples that people do is they put twin beds in rooms. So if you guys ever have been to Airbnbs, you guys will sometimes have experienced this, that they will put 2 beds in the room to allow for more guests. There's people like we've had people offer blow-up mattresses or spare mattresses, or even have couches that turn into beds, right? But the more guests that you can accommodate, the more valuable your property becomes. And then property type. So if you actually will search on Airbnb, you guys will find out that the actual main headline is actually the property type. So this is, people actually care about this so much that Airbnb changed it so that like the headline that we talked about before, like it's actually a sub headline. The main headline is like, this is a guest suite. This is a full home. This is a condo. This is an apartment. This is an RV, right? So some of you guys might know that we actually own an RV that we rent out. Now it's rented out long-term. We don't do it on Airbnb yet, but it's something that we will probably do going into the springtime. But the property type is super important. Some people like they'll only stay in single family homes. Like they absolutely hate apartments. They don't want to stay in an apartment with somebody next door, or they don't want to stay in a mother-in-law suite, or they don't want to stay in a guest house that's attached. So these are all things that are super important when you're actually listing your property type. That's when it comes to the listing of your property. Okay, so this is basically what people see. Now, the next thing that people care about, obviously, is the price. Okay, and so we're gonna talk about base price, we're gonna talk about minimum price, we're gonna talk about cleaning fees, we're gonna talk about seasonality pricing, we're talking about lead times, days of the week, events, and pricing software. So first thing let's talk about is base price. So how do you actually find your base price? So you'll find out on Airbnb, there's basically a couple things that it wants you to set. It wants you to set a base price and then a minimum price. And these are gonna be super important things, super important numbers to set. And so how do you start with your base price? Is you literally use your market. You go on to Airbnb, you type in if your property can house 2 people or 4 people or 6 people, whatever it may be, and you're going to basically search in your market to see what a house like yours is going for. And again, the longer you do this, the more you search, like not only in the month of November like it is right now, if you search December, January, February, March, April, you start to see that these prices will start to change, will start to adjust. And so your prices will adjust as we talked about the seasonality of your property as well. But you want to use your market and get a general idea. So like this property is renting for about $150 or $160, $170, whatever it may be. And that's how you find your base price, is you literally do a model of what everybody else in your market is already doing. Okay, so that's how you get your base price. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is how to get your minimum price. And so this is going to be, what is the minimum amount that you're going to rent your house out for every single night? Now, this is kind of more of a philosophical thing, so I'll tell you my philosophy. Other people might have different minimums, but I look at like, what is my break even? So what is my break even is going to be like, what is my PITI? Because again, I own my properties. Now, if you're renting this as an arbitrage, then you're going to have like your PITI is just going to be your rent payment, your utilities, your streaming services, your home protection. Okay, and whatever else it costs you to hold this property every single month, that's going to happen regardless if you have guests or not. Okay, so you figure out that number. Let's say, for example, that this number is $3,000. Okay, so it's going to cost me $3,000 that I got to spend on my property regardless if people are in there or not. And so I take that number and I divide that by 30 days in the month. And so if I break even is $100 a night, then that's basically the minimum that I want to rent my property for. Okay, now could you actually go lower than that? Because technically maybe I have other nights of the week or other nights where I'm renting my property out for $150, $200, where I could even go below that $100. Yes, you could. But if you want to start with a minimum price, start with that $100 or whatever is your break even, and then from there you can adjust it accordingly. Okay, but you need to know what your minimum price is. What is the least that you actually will take for your property? Now, the reason why I think that's important is because the next thing we have is our cleaning fee. And if you set your cleaning fee right, then all your variable costs, so this accounts for all your variable costs, which is like your cleaning service, means that like if you only have 3 cleans, well, then you're only gonna get charged 3 times whatever your cleaning service costs, plus your laundry service, plus toiletries, TP, scrubbers, soap, paper towels, etc. Okay, and so what your cleaning fee needs to do is it needs to account for all these things. And so most people, when think about cleaning fees, they only literally think about the cleaning service. So if I have a cleaning service that charges me $100 to turn over my property, most landlords, most entrepreneurs, they will charge a $100 cleaning fee. And they wonder why they end up losing money when they do more and more turnovers every single month. It's because they don't account for the laundry service. They don't account for the toiletries. They don't account for the TP, the scrubbers, the soap, the paper towels, everything else that isn't like everything else that you provide that you have to turn over every single time a guest comes and goes. You need to actually account for, well, how much is my laundry costing me for every turnover? How much is it costing me per person in TP and scrubbers and soap and paper towels? You need to get that number, and let's say it's more likely going to be an extra $50. So instead of charging $100, you need to charge $150 for your cleaning fee, because $100 of that goes to the cleaning service, but the other $50 needs to go for everything else, plus maybe a little cushion that if something happens, that you can account for extra TP, right? We have another TP, a TP rate on the stores, and all of a sudden price TP goes sky high, or whatever happens, right? Or maybe you have to bring another cleaning service in because something happens, you have to pay an extra $25 for a cleaning service. You got to try somebody new, okay? Or you get a discount for some reason. So these are all things that we put inside your cleaning fee. It allows you to keep your variable costs variable, and that way you actually can adjust your minimum price down a lot lower, because you know that your variable costs are taken care of on the cleaning fee. And then seasonality. So seasonality is something that is really important, especially in almost every single market has some sort of seasonality. Some of them are more drastic than others, but you always got to understand that different seasons, you're going to have different base prices, you're going to have different minimums. And so again, when you go if you're coming into a brand new market and you don't know exactly what these base prices are, these minimums are, go into your market, go search as a customer and look in the wintertime and see what the prices are. Go look in the summertime and see what the prices are. So as I was talking about before, our Airbnb in New York, like it's a huge difference in seasons between the prices. So like the base prices in the wintertime, like from October, November, December, January, February, March, and April is like $3,000. As we get into May, June, July, August, September, it's like $15,000 to $20,000. Like it's a big difference. And so when you understand the seasonalities, you need to adjust your base prices and your minimums accordingly. Lead times, okay? So lead times are super important, especially dependent on what type of property you have, that you should have your prices be increased the further someone books out. So for example, if you have someone right now who's looking for the summertime, those prices should be 30, 40, 50, 60% higher than your base price, because they're booking so far out that you have the opportunity to, again, get the premium price for that. And then as we start to get closer, that property still isn't booked. Let's say you're now 3 months out, now the price starts to come back down to normal. And then as you get closer and closer, maybe within 2 months or 1 month, then all of a sudden maybe it turns back to where maybe you're getting some sort of discount. It just depends on how big your property is. Now, the bigger properties, they tend to get booked out further in advance, and the smaller properties, they tend to have shorter lead times. And so this comes from a little bit of experience. It comes from a little bit of just owning properties. But again, the longer lead time you have, you should theoretically have your prices higher. And then as it gets closer, then your prices start to get lower and lower, okay? So one thing that you can also do is you can have your calendar open versus closed. And so depending on, so again, from a consistent standpoint, like we like to have our studios have a closed calendar, and people can only book up to 2 months in advance, okay? Because we realize that some like those type of customers, they're last minute customers, and we're able to actually get higher prices because they're booking last minute, rather than somebody who's looking in advance. Then they would be they might be getting a better deal because they're booking so far in the future. Now, I say this now because I'm going to share with you a little bit about a pricing software that allows us now that we can actually have our calendar open all the time. So we can have those increased prices just be automated rather than us having to constantly look at it. But it's just a strategy. You can have a closed calendar versus open calendar. One other example of this, and the person I got this from is on this call, Tom Swan. We have Airbnbs in Arizona, and that's primarily where a lot of his Airbnbs are as well. And so we have the the 2 weeks before the Super Bowl closed off. Okay, so right on the calendar, those weeks are closed off, and they will be closed off all the way up until the NFC and AFC championship games have been played, because once those games have been played, that means the teams have then been set for the Super Bowl. And then at that moment, then all of the fans are going to start to buy tickets for the Super Bowl, and then obviously they're going to want to get their accommodations. And so we're actually going to close our calendar off until those games have been decided, because those last 2 weeks, all of a sudden people, because there's only so much inventory, and because they want that those accommodations so bad, we're able to jack the prices up. And so that's another strategy to think about too, is understanding that if you have something like that, you want to have your calendar closed so you actually can get premium pricing versus it being open all the time. So hopefully that's like one example. There's other instances where that same psychology can play a role in, but understanding your lead times can be helpful for you getting the highest prices and also increasing your occupancy. Another thing we're going to talk about is day of week, right? So you can do weekday. So there's going to be different prices for weekday pricing versus weekend prices. I think inherently everybody understands this, but when you actually implement this in your strategy, you'd be surprised at how much of a difference a weekend versus a weekday can be, and how much that difference can be if you're, especially in slow season, then if you can actually get a pretty good weekend and get the premium price, it can make up for having some vacancy during the week. And then, of course, we talked about events a little bit. Sporting events are things that you need to make sure that you're paying attention to make sure your prices are set accordingly. There's conferences coming to town, you have concerts, you have holidays. These are all things to take into account for when it comes to your pricing. Pricing software. There is 3 main pricing softwares out there. Wheelhouse is one of them, Price Labs is the second one, and Beyond Pricing is the third one. Now, which one if you're looking at using, I think all 3 of these are great. I've never really actually heard really any bad things about any of them. We use Beyond Pricing, so I can't speak firsthand about Wheelhouse and Price Labs aside just from what I've heard. But a pricing software is so valuable because all those things I just talked to you about when it comes to understanding like day of week pricing, when it comes to understanding events, when it comes to understand lead times and seasonalities, like these are all things that you can actually put into your pricing software, that you create automations that the software does it for you, and so you can create rules. And so instead of you having to constantly go in there and check to see, oh my gosh, like there's a concert coming to town, I didn't know the Kenny Chesney concert was coming to town. Oh, you know what, our college team, they made the playoffs, now we have a playoff game that wasn't on the schedule until on Sunday. Now we have a playoff game in 2 weeks, right? And so I don't want to constantly be paying attention to that, because this pricing software, it does it for us. Okay, and so that's really the value of using pricing software. And the cost of it, again, I can't speak for Wheelhouse or Price Labs, but Beyond Pricing, they just take 1% of whatever they bring in. So if they bring in $1,000, they get, what is that, $10? If they bring in $10,000, they get $100. It's like super cheap. So anyway, huge proponent of pricing software. I really am. And so we use Beyond Pricing. When we started in 2020, we were going through the season of, we just wanted to get bookings and we wanted to keep our occupancy as high as possible. And so we were looking for longer term stays. This was obviously during COVID. And so travel was way down, right? Travel was illegal for the most part in 2020, right? Like there was no traveling. You were it was not okay to travel in 2020. And so we were looking for longer term stays with our Airbnbs. Then we got into 2021 and we made a decision. We want to go short term. I want to see what this looks like when we do 1 night stays, 2 night stays, 3 night stays. And so we went shorter term stays in all of 2021. In 2022, this year, we've just find out like what is the best value, like midterm stays, whether it be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, or somebody wants a little bit longer term, or somebody wants shorter term. Like we're just looking to maximize our cash flow at the end of every single month. So what is going to happen in 2023? Honestly, don't know. Right? But what I do know is that it's going to fall within one of these 3 buckets. It's either we're going to be more longer term, more shorter term, or more midterm, right? And most likely it's going to be a combination of all 3 of these. And that's why it's important to understand these different strategies, because ultimately they all can work. It's just a matter of you as the host, as the owner of the property, or as the one who's controlling the property, to say, here are all the strategies, what works best for me based on the market right now, based on the property I have, and based on what the market is telling me. Okay? And so I think that's the most important thing to understand, is that everything is just a tool. It is your job to implement what tool is going to work the best. And a lot of these can be like, you could have a 1 or 2 night stay, and then right after that, you could have a a 2 or 3 week stay. Then right after that, you could have another 1 or 2 night stay. And then after that, you could have a 3 or 4 month stay. And so as long as you can like not be pigeonholed into like, I have to do 1 night stays or I have to do long-term stays, you can see what is best for your property. You will win, okay, in 2023. Okay, so let's talk about occupancy, okay? And so how do we keep our occupancy high? And one way we do that is through offering specific discounts, okay? And so we do monthly discounts, multi-stay discounts, perfect fit discounts, neighbor discounts, last minute discounts, low season prep, and I'll teach you guys a little bit about algorithm love. So monthly discounts. Understanding what is your monthly discount based on your peak season and off season. So in your peak season, what is your property going to make? Like what's ideal net for it? So like I said, like my goal is to make as much net cash flow as possible. So after all of expenses, that means the PITI, the toiletries, the cleaning fees, everything that's included, what is my net going to be? And so let's just say it's $1,000 a month of net. And we have the same property that the PITI and the utilities and the streaming software is all $3,000. Okay. And so let's say that it grossed $5,000 and there was another $1,000 and all those expenses I just talked about. And so we netted about $1,000. So what if somebody offered me $4,200 for the month during peak season, right? And I think about that, I'm like, okay, so what would it cost me? Like what expenses would I get rid of if I did a monthly stay versus nightly stays? And then I look at all the cleaning fees I would have to turn over, all the toiletries, and like I add those up and see, is that going to be less than, I guess it would be an extra $200 for them to stay there. And if it meets my $1,000 that I said that's my goal to net, then I'm going to go ahead and take that, because not only am I going to net the same, but it's going to be for less work. Okay. So you got to understand, if you know what your monthly discount is during peak season, then all of a sudden you can market your property at $4,200 or $4,500, and like that's your number. And if nobody takes it, it's fine. Who cares? Because at the same time, like you're not stopping for that person. You're going to continue to play the 1 night, 2 night, 3 night, 7 night, 14-day night stays. But when somebody asks you your monthly price and you put it out there, you'd be surprised that sometimes people are just like, yeah, like here's $4,500 or here's $4,200. And you're like, oh, okay, cool, right? And so it's a nice little bonus when you get that. Also know what is your off season. Okay, so in your off season, if somebody were to offer you $3,500, which will allow your property maybe to break even, like is that good for you in comparison to what you could do in the off season as running it as more of a short-term rental. And so that's why you just got to know your numbers. What is your monthly discount for both your peak season and off season based on what your goal is for that period of time? Okay, everyone should have a number. Now, one thing you can do on Airbnb specifically is you can actually offer multi-day discounts. So you can help increase your length of stay by having your base price. Let's say your base price is $150 a night, but you can have a 2-day discount where you automatically get 5% off, right? Or they can get 10% off. And so you can really jack that 1 night up, that if somebody does want just 1 night, they're paying a premium price for it. But if they book 2 nights or 3 nights, then they get a discount. You can literally do multi-day discounts for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever your heart desires. Okay, but this multi-day discount allows you to again keep your occupancy higher by offering length of stay discounts. Another one we're going to talk about is called a perfect fit discount. Okay, so a perfect fit discount, when you look at your calendar, and let's say today is Tuesday, and let's say that we have somebody checking out tomorrow, which we do, right? We have someone checking out tomorrow on Wednesday, and we have another booking on Friday, or excuse me, on Saturday. So that means on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday it's open right now, and then on Saturday there's another booking. So what I call this a perfect day discount. Is I will go into my pricing software, or you can go into Airbnb, or you can go to VRBO, or you can go into all the sites that you want to, and you can offer what's called a perfect fit discount, where you actually discount those 3 nights together, right? So people only get a discount if they take all 3 nights. So this encourages somebody to take all 3 nights rather than just taking 1 night, because they get a discount for taking all 3 of those nights specifically. So this is how you actually can help fill your calendar up when you have bookings on the front end and the back end, and you want to try to make something fit in between. Okay, I literally just did this yesterday morning, and I did it for 2 of our properties because we had this exact situation. We had people checking out on Sunday, and then we had openings on I think Wednesday and Thursday. No, we had bookings on Wednesday and Thursday for one of our properties. Or on Thursday and Friday. So I offered a perfect fit discount for these 2 properties on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and within an hour they were booked. Okay, so this strategy works really, really well. A neighbor discount. So what is a neighbor discount? It's very similar to the perfect fit discount, except for, again, you can discount just specific days in front or behind of an existing booking. So again, if you have a 1 day, you have 1 day that's stuck in between someone checking in versus checking out, you can offer a discount on the neighbor in the front and the back end. Usually you're going to start to see these on specific days like Mondays and Tuesdays, Thursdays. These are days that generally you're going to discount them just because people are usually coming and going on the days after those. So if you discount those specific days, it allows you to, again, increase your occupancy. So that's a neighbor discount. And then last minute discounts. So I'm talking specifically about our properties. Our properties are smaller. Like our biggest one is a 3-bedroom, but we have lots of studios and then a 2-bedroom as well. And so we do last minute discounts, and we started at 14 days. So at 14 days, they're going to get a slight discount. At 7 days, they get another discount. And then the last 3 days, the day number 3 is like a 25% discount. Day 2 is like a 35% discount on day 1, and last day booking is like a 45% discount off the base price. Okay, and so these last minute discounts allow you to actually keep your occupancy high, and again, allow you to actually have your property booked, because if you know your numbers, it's better for that property to be booked than for it to sit vacant. Okay, so these last minute discounts are super, super crucial. And then last thing I'm going to share with you is a little bit about algorithm love. This is specifically for Airbnb. I'm sure it'll probably work on other platforms, but I know specifically on Airbnb, it helps a ton, is that Airbnb loves active hosts. And so what Airbnb currently sees as active hosts is somebody who's adjusting their prices, someone who's adjusting their photos and adjusting their headlines. So when we have a property that is sitting there on the last day or 2 without a booking, we'll adjust the price. We usually lower the minimum price down by 5%, 3%. We'll adjust that cover photo so we have 5 really good photos that we really, really like, and we'll take one of those photos and we'll just replace it with a cover photo, and then we'll adjust the headline. Okay, so again, we'll put King Suite in there, or we'll put the location in there. We'll do something in there that catches the eye and just basically lets the algorithm know that we're trying to get somebody to book our property. Okay, so these are little things that you do every single day that allow you to continue to show up in the feeds. And so that's what I call algorithm love. If you got any value from the video, feel free to like the video, comment down below what your favorite piece of the video was, and if you want more videos like this and you're looking to get a fatter bank account and a leader body, subscribe to the channel. Now, if you're a real estate investor and you want to get more properties, then watching this video right here on how to get a HELOC, man, that's a great video to watch. All right, guys, bye-bye.